Sure, sure. So when we look at the history of the last century, the society have not been deprived of technological advancement. We have watched, especially this generation, we have watched coming from the 20th century, late 20th century, into early 21st century, that a great many technologies have come about, from landline phones to mobile phones, from individual computers or no computers to interconnected internet. We now walk around with a mobile phone in our pocket that is fully connected to the internet, and you can do a search for all forms of knowledge from literally millions and millions of computers, and have access to that. So it is not the access to this information and to this knowledge that has been missing. The access has increased, and there are good points about that. There are advantages to that. So we might ask, how come the use of this technology has not resulted in a more equitable um, progress in society? And the reason is this: we have a societal system, both in terms of its governance and in terms of its economics, that perpetuates and accelerates inequality. If
Mm.
you think about market forces on their own, not properly regulated, not properly adjusted, will only increase inequality, which means the rich become the richer and the poor become poorer, even within the same society. Within the same European or American society, the
Mhm.
application of the market forces will result in bifurcation, in increased inequality. So once we observe that, it becomes clear to us that either through regulation or through, even better, through education, we should create an environment in which people can advance. Wealth is a good thing if lots of people have it, if everybody has it. Um, we don't praise poverty. We praise material and spiritual um, progress should go hand in hand, which is what you mentioned. So if you want material and spiritual progress to go hand in hand, we have to examine the systems, not only individuals, because individual, you can transform the individual heart can be transformed, people can become more cooperative, more collaborative, more generous, more empathetic to others. That's great. But such individuals embedded in a system, economic system, social system, that is inclined to perpetuate injustice, then obviously it will not result in good progress. Uh,
Mm.
Many of the revolutions in the world have also had to do with this extreme inequality. When inequality increases, the society becomes unstable. Actually, the history of whether it is communist revolutions or other forms of revolutions in the world bears witness to this instability created as a result of excessive inequality. We're not talking about equality for everybody. We're talking about equal opportunity. We are talking about equal protection and so on. So, to answer your question about how, why is it that AI doesn't contribute to? Because if you use AI again in an unregulated society, an unregulated environment, um, then then you will see that bad things will happen. Now, let me mention this. I'm not promoting too much government regulation because there's a discussion in the society that that impedes progress. The question is a balance. You see, if you only think about the individuals, then you have a certain view about regulation. But if you think about the welfare of community, and the rights of the institutions. You think about these three protagonists of change: individual, community, and institution. And you say they all have rights, and these rights have to be in balance. Once you think about that, then you will see that it's not about regulation, it's about balancing the rights of the communities um, and individuals. What we have in the world today is that certain countries, certain communities can advance and others um, fall behind. Some of them just resort to mining, and whether it is oil and gas or other minerals, extractive technologies, and so forth, but not further adding value to it. What we are saying is this: use AI with moderation and thoughtfully to see whether that application is good for the society or not. Why am I saying this? Is because of this cardinal principle that the welfare of the individual is intimately interconnected with the welfare of society. You cannot have an island of prosperity in a sea of misery. That's not a stable condition. So, um, if you recognize the oneness of mankind and that people of all countries share the same planet together, then we should think about prosperity of both individuals, communities, and societies at large. Um, and prosperity with justice is what brings for you the advancement of material and spiritual together.
Mm. Okay, great. Would you also say that, along with the oneness of mankind, that with these technologies we have to recognize like the basic nobility of human, like others? Could you maybe speak on that, like recognizing nobility and why that's important?
Sure, sure. So, I mentioned earlier on that technology embeds value in it. Some people think that, well, technology is just a tool. There's a computer or there is some technology that I'm using, and whether I use it correctly or not incorrectly. Um, it, that is only true to some extent. A fuller picture is that technology is produced by humans from societies. And so the value systems of um, those companies or those individuals who create the technology, those values are embedded in the technology. Now, we have to go back. You mentioned about nobility of the individual, to recognize the oneness of mankind, to understand that we are all humans and we belong to the human race, and we all have rights and responsibilities and so forth, and to recognize that human nature is inherently noble. Uh, let's go back a little bit. Um, uh, when the economic theories first came, a theory was put forward that all humans are selfish, and every human will be endeavoring to advance their own individual um, interest. That actually misses a significant point. We see, and there is now numerous documented sociological studies to show that in many circumstances, um, people sacrifice themselves for other people. The theory of self-interested behavior can no longer be sustained. Let me give you one example. When there was a disaster in the Potomac River in Washington, the cold winter, and there were people in the water from I think an aircraft had crashed and so on, and the helicopter would come to rescue people. And there was one person, a very strong, fit, perhaps a former military person. He comes and grabs the rope from the helicopter, and instead of rescuing himself, he takes hold of another person before they drown and puts the rope in their hand and have them be rescued. And he repeated that. I was told, actually, I saw the video of it multiple times, 6 or 7 times. And when the helicopter came back for him, who was the last person, they found that he had died from hypothermia.
Mm.
So, how do you explain such a behavior? This flies straight against the theory of self-interested behavior of the individual. Why is that? Because because we are humans, and in addition to our bodies, we also have a soul, a spirit, whatever you want to term it, is obviously something that is not molecular in basis. Uh, So if you accept that, then you say there are certain value systems. This nobility that we talk about, we are not blind to the fact that some people deliberately commit crimes or deliberately do injustice and so forth. But we say that they're all capable, that there is an aspect of humanity that is noble, that if society provides the opportunity for that nobility to shine through, then it will. So now let's take that back and say, if we are studying courses at the universities that are entirely based on the self-interest assumption of the individual, then those courses, those university educations are missing a part of the story. When you miss a part of the story, you have a model of reality, but that model is a very inadequate model. To get a more perfect, better model, you have to look at the noble side, the spiritual side of a human being. And then you say, okay, any technology that we want to use, you talked about application of knowledge, generation of knowledge. This is a responsibility of all people, not just a few elite universities or companies, not only in Western Europe and North America, but everywhere else in the world. If the society provides the opportunity for them to contribute, then they will contribute, and they can then bring to real implementation value systems which transcends the current technologies. We should not divide the world into creators of technology and consumers of technology. That's what it is today, and it's wrong. Why it is wrong? Because it dehumanizes. It sees people as mere consumers rather than people who can contribute to the generation, acquisition, dissemination of knowledge.